everyone,
Hi, I'm Karen,
and I'm Mae.
and we are from
Boomers to Gen Z.
So we're going to talk about something which we all go through, especially after we get married, which are mothers-in-laws, whether they are mother-in-law from hell or are they mother-in-law from, the dream mother-in-law kind of thing. So stay tuned, don't go away.
So, Karen, you've been married for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
How was it meeting your mother-in-law? What was the first impressions?
Um, First off, I will say that I have the best mother-in-law in the world.
Okay.
Really, truly, truly, and I'm not just saying it. We met when my husband introduced or spoke to my mother-in-law about me. Uh, she immediately, you know, took the initiative to learn English because she wanted to communicate with me. And and she was very grateful that I spoke French and I could communicate with her. And it was very easy. She's always really mindful about how I want things for my children. So she would always be careful about for example, if she wants to give candy to the children, she will always ask my permission whether is it okay. She doesn't assume that it's just because she's the elderly person that she would just do it. And um and her relationship with my husband is so sweet because I also respect that we don't see them often enough. So when we do go back or we have holidays together, I always make sure that I give my husband his space to be with cuddly and dating the mother. So I walk away and do my stuff so that my husband can have that quality time with the mother. Because as a mother now, I realize that your children in your eyes are never grown ups. They're always your baby. And as much as yes, they are grown men and all that, you always want that time with your children. Is something that is super super precious. Like now, all I want to do is always make whatever time I have to be with my children. So I was lucky that way, being an interracial marriage, and it was a very super easy transition. Yeah, but I know of some horror mother-in-laws as well. So why do you ask?
I'm just wondering, like, I'm guessing that relationship would be very important. And I know that, like, I've heard some of my friends stress about how they really, like, they're dating a guy for a long time and they already hate the person's mom or dad.
Okay.
And I think that, like, it's already a very unhealthy basis because then it's sort of like a tug of war with that person. And then, like, the person, if you didn't have a healthy relationship with your mother-in-law, your husband would feel so
Caught in between,
caught in between
right?
what she wants and then what she wants, and then they would constantly be compromising on what they want.
Yeah.
What they want no longer becomes
Correct.
valid.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of relate to that. So I'm dating someone, and like I obviously have the things that I want, like, and they're not big asks, like simple things like, oh, I would want us to have dinner like at least a few times in the week together. I want us to do like one healthy activity together, so spend the evening. Whereas, like, obviously, his mom also wants those things. So it's like we're torn in between because we're not all on the same place, or on the same page. And then I started to realize that for the longest time, I haven't asked him what he wanted until recently. So, like, the last week, he's been fishing a lot. He hasn't caught anything, but that's what he wants. And then I realized that if in the future I do not have a good relationship with her, this is just going to prolong. And the most unhappy person is actually going to be him.
Yes, and it's not fair to him too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that reminds me, I don't know if you guys have seen Crazy Rich Asian,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then Michelle Yeoh playing the matriarch who's super controlling and wants to keep the impression of the son marrying a,
Rich.
a rich or influential daughter-in-law kind of thing. And I think fundamentally, as a parent, we all want the best things for our children. That's we all want the best life, the best person, and all those things. We all do for our children. But in a relationship issue, I feel that um, sometimes the son or the daughter needs to figure it out themselves, because I noticed that the more we, especially with the new generation, the more we oppose to that relationship, the more likely that they will
Run away.
run away or still pursue it, even if it was detrimental to them, because they just want to prove their parents wrong. Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
yeah, it is.
It,
It fuels it. It's a motivating factor. So it no longer becomes like going with the flow to see where this goes,
yeah,
but it
yeah,
becomes proving a point.
exactly. So my advice to parents who are maybe dealing with their children dating to them, to you, are not suitable to your child, uh, don't be overly hard just yet. You try to open your heart and space and home to get to know that person. I think that's super important, because again, we talk about judgment a few episodes again, how we shouldn't be judging the people. Maybe there's a backstory. Maybe when you know that person, okay, so for instance, let's say your daughter comes back with a punk rocker looking dude, and your first impression is, oh my god, what, he's with the black eyeliner and whatnots, right? But maybe when you get to know him, he's actually a really good person. But yes, appearance is a bit shocking. But that is on your opinion, not on
Mm.
his opinion. Maybe he thinks that's really cool. It could be a phase. I mean, a lot of people who are the younger one, they want to experiment all these things. Maybe they are just going through a phase, and then let them shake it all out, and they'll come back to whatever. But I think sometimes as parents, I feel the more you try to control and give ultimatums and all that, the more likely your child will do exactly the opposite.
I actually, I really agree with that. So like, this isn't really a mother-in-law, but of course I had Zach, my son, with another, with like someone else. I don't know how that sounds, but yeah. So I had a past, and when I delivered Zach, that my partner at the time's mom was actually very involved in Zach after he was born. And I was very confused because throughout the pregnancy, I was kind of like shunned away, like, don't come to the house. This is an embarrassment and all of this. And then when the baby was born, me just being, I grew up growing up in the UK, like there's a certain way that I've seen babies be cared for. There was nothing like putting smoke on the baby's feet and tilting the baby upside down and dipping the baby in turmeric. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
I would be asleep and I would wake up and I'm like, where's my baby? And like I've only delivered, it's like less than a week, and they're doing all of this and they're not letting me shower my baby myself. So it was really traumatizing. And at that time, I thought that my partner would stand up for me and be like, let her do it. Like, it's not like I'm going to kill the baby. I mean, like, I'll be gentle, like, let me do it. But he didn't. He was like, my mom knows best. My mom had 3 kids. Let my mom do it. You don't
Right.
know what you're doing.
Mhm.
And it really upset me to the point that I ran away from the situation. So after you deliver a baby, I think it's still a thing now. You have to go check for the baby if they have jaundice
Yes, yeah, which is
after a few
common.
days.
Mm.
So in a way, thankfully, Zakiel had jaundice. So I told everyone that he was admitted. But he was only admitted for a day. I told him he was admitted for 2 days, and I took my baby home to my other house, and then we never left the house after that. And then
Oh,
I actually never saw them again. That was the last time I saw them.
oh wow. Okay.
So it's really comes to like when you have like a partner's parents, I think having a good relationship needs to also be equal. As much as like we give respect as the youngest to the elders,
Mm.
I feel like what you mentioned, like the elders should also give us that respect.
Yeah, I find that there is that the assumption or the expectation for elders that, oh, young one, you must just respect. But my stand is respect is to be earned.
Mm.
And I think if we don't respect you, the younger generation, as a person, and accept your point of view or your way of life, um, then you don't. I don't deserve your respect.
Mm.
So I
I
think
think so.
there is that thing where, especially because our culture generally is all about, oh, the older generation, you are wiser, you, therefore we have to understand you, and we have to just respect you, whatever you say. Yes and no. There are some wisdom that we carry, but we also need to remember that, you brought up your child. He or she is now an adult. Don't you think you should give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt that maybe they know what they're doing? You have brought them well, so why should you question everything they do? And I myself, on a personal level, have also gone through this with my children, because it's true, you we always think you are that little 10-year old and that you need mommy. And we mothers always want to be useful or be relevant to our children. We want to be of, uh, that you would look up to us. So because of that, we feel that we need to know everything, we need to be there to rescue you and all those things. And I've learned, as I become a more evolved mother kind of thing, that sometimes it's okay to just let them, make their mistakes, uh, let them come to you when they are ready.
Mm.
And but just sending the message that we are there and I'm always there, and that they can always come back home.
Yeah.
That's the message that I give to my children. And I realized when I started to do that with my own children, in fact, then they're more careful, and they would call me and ask for my advice when it's ready. And sometimes they say, Mom, I don't want any advice, I just need you to listen, and I'll just keep quiet and I'll listen. Yeah, because sometimes we don't we
Yeah.
actually know what we want should do, but we just need someone to vent.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just so yeah, so mother-in-laws, hopefully when you are a mother-in-law, you need to approach that relationship with your son-in-law or your daughter-in-law, where, they are their own, they are creating their own life. So the question is, do you want your son or your daughter to be happy?
Mm.
uh, and if that is the ultimate thing that you want for your son or your daughter, you need to let go of your expectations.
I think that's a good one. So that brings me to ask you, what
Okay.
do you think is the point of view of you as a mother-in-law? What do you think is
Oh, I am not at mother-in-law yet, but they are in pretty serious relationship.
How do you think you're viewed?
I don't know. I think that they like me. I think.
She's very careful. Never know who could watch
I
this.
know. So I think they like me. No, but I am very mindful. I am very mindful that I don't overstep. When we visit them, I make sure that, I make sure that, okay, that's not my home. I shouldn't overstep, and I should ask permission and things like that beforehand. So yeah, I'm trying to be very careful as I get older now, is that, especially, you see, remember we talked about this a few episodes ago, about how we take the people we love for granted, and that we forget about that normal manners that we should have. But when we talk about a friend, oh, then you are very kind and you remember your P's and Q's and all that. So I'm trying to approach all the people that I love to be very mindful and say, oh, do you mind? Or the thank yous and the please, so that it's always a very courteous relationship. And be mindful that, yes, my children are my children, but they are also adults and they have their own point of view. And I brought them up to be very strong, independent, and definitely not a wallpaper. So I do want them to voice their opinion for sure. Yeah, yeah. And how about you? I mean,
I
you're a
have a
young
long.
mom. Yeah, but not too long. It can come in quite quickly.
Mm. I really don't know yet. Like I think my relationship with with my son at the moment, it's very, because of the close age of just being young, right? I can see that we have a very playful relationship,
Mhm.
but there's definitely a very strict side, and I must say that I feel like you're a much more open person than I am.
Oh.
And that doesn't sound quite right because I've been through it, right? But I think that because I have kind of taken a very controversial way of like starting a family, I think that like deep down inside, I do have that war with myself of wanting him to have the most like typical, atypical like storyline.
Mhm.
So I need to actually let go of all of those things. So thankfully, I have time before I scare off the first woman in his life. He recently had a crush, and I didn't react very well. I was like, which one? Which one? Why do you like her?
8 year old? Okay.
He's like, she's pretty, and I'm like, just because she's pretty, you like her? It's like, no, 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 her handwriting also nice. I'm like, okay, like, not bad. Her handwriting also nice.
Yeah, so it is very difficult. I think again, um for me, I will ask if that person is making my
Child
child
happy.
happy. Then yeah, I will give it a shot and put my judgment, my biases aside, because fundamentally all I want is for my child to be happy.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so I shall say this is just for fun, and we are not berating mother in laws and mothers, but I'm just saying sometimes you may think you have, best for your child, but maybe having that conversation directly with
Mm.
them and see what they see is so special about the woman or the man they love will help you have a better perspective and um, have an open mind, open heart, right?
So comment below what are either the three things you love about your mother-in-law or the three things you love about yourself
As a mother-in-law,
as a
yeah.
mother-in-law. We won't bring out the negative stuff, just the things that you love about it, as maybe an expression of gratitude as well to yourself and to the other person.
Yeah.
And we'll see you.
Next week. Bye
Bye.
bye.